Spotify's new Pod City, the latest from Podnews.net with Memberful, helping you build reliable, recurring revenue from your podcast. Spotify has unveiled its downtown LA offices called Pod City. It can accommodate 600 employees and has 18 studios. We reported yesterday the podcast hosting company bCast had pulled all lifetime accounts. With just 2 weeks' notice, the company has now changed its mind, calling the decision misguided, irresponsible, and a mistake. It's also refunding customers if they bought a new plan. And last month, Spreaker also prematurely closed a 10-year promotion for free hosting. It had offered that with iHeart in July 2013. Another day, another podcast deal for SiriusXM, which has signed with YMH Studios, the podcast network hosted by Tom Zagura and Christina P. The multi-year agreement integrates the YMH Studios staff into Stitcher, where they'll continue to operate Your Mum's House and the rest of the network's slate. Pacific Content has published its second part of podcast predictions for 2022. I, again, predict that Apple Podcasts will launch an Android app. They can't be that stupid not to do that next year. But I did lose a bet with Adam Curry that they'd do that this year, and I had to pay him the 100,000 sat bet to Adam today. In the UK, the BBC has claimed 558 million plays of podcasts and on-demand radio programmes on BBC Sounds in 2021. That's a figure that doesn't include non-UK listening nor any listening on podcast apps. It also reports that BBC Sounds say they've seen a nearly 25% increase in podcast listening. In Australia, the ABC has published its top 10 podcasts of 2021. The Signal is third in the list. It was axed by the corporation in November, though, and has just ended. A new version of software for the Shure MV7, the Shure Plus Motive desktop, is now available. Version 1.2.1 now natively supports Apple Silicon Macs. And talking of which, all Rogue Amiga apps now have full Monterey support, they say. We use Audio Hijack, Loopback, and Sound Source. And in People News, Sarah Foss has been promoted to Chief Technology Officer at Odyssey. And in podcast news, You're Wrong About was recorded in unusual conditions for its latest episode. Everyone was in the same room. No, for real. It also features a look at the Amityville Horror in their book club and why it's a Christmas story. From the UK, the Automovie podcast looks at cars on film. The latest episode, number 47, talks about Hammond's Workshop and Ghostbusters before reviewing Drive and Overdrive. The Offcuts Drawer is a podcast about writers and writing and the bits that they never finished. Actors perform them, and the writer tells host Laura Shavin the stories behind them. And Verbal Diorama is the podcast on the history and legacy of movies you know and movies you don't. The latest episode, number 130, is all about Thor Ragnarok, a movie that was partially filmed in Podnews' hometown of Brisbane in Australia, doubling up as Manhattan rather implausibly, with yellow taxis and steam billowing out of the ground. This podcast is brought to you by Memberful. Memberful seamlessly integrates with the tools you already use like WordPress, MailChimp, Discord, and lots more, and lets you create members-only podcasts using your existing podcast hosting, so you can start earning more revenue with your current publishing workflow. You can get started for free. There's no credit card required. Find out more at memberful.com. That's memberful.com. And that's the latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net.